Hello and welcome back to the Andy's Bet Club podcast, the podcast where we bring you some of the biggest games in Europe and build a four-leg bet builder for those games. Today we are back in the Premier League with Liverpool versus Newcastle this Saturday at 8 p.m. As always in these podcasts, I am joined by two of Andy's Bet Club experts. This week we have got Robin and Marcus. Fellas, welcome to the podcast. Newcastle again this weekend. Robin, we covered them earlier on in the week in the Champions League versus PSG. We had a couple of non-starters in that bet, which was a bit of a letdown. Do you want to touch on that first of all, my man?
Yeah, sure. And I think we're a little bit unlucky, to be honest, because Eddie Howe really sprung a surprise on everybody, including Luis Enrique and PSG, by fielding a back three. And I think it's only the second time all season that he's elected to go with a back three. And obviously that had a knock-on effect on our selections. Kieran Trippier, who didn't start and didn't play at all, and obviously Anthony Gordon, who came on and got his shot on target as we predicted he would. So we were maybe a little bit unlucky, particularly with Gordon, I think, in that one.
Yeah, when we do these podcasts, we always do them a day or two in advance, so we try and predict the lineup, but always make sure that sort of when you are putting the bet on yourselves to check the lineup prior to the matches. Apart from that bet, mate, whilst we're on the Champions League, how good is this league, Faith?
Yeah, it's absolutely classic, isn't it? And the way it just builds up to a crescendo with all these games going on in the final week. And, we've seen the goals flowing last season and again last night. It's just super exciting.
Marcus, welcome, my man. The first time on the podcast. This weekend, two teams that are sort of a bit hit and miss this season in the Premier League, in all competitions, really. Both sets of fans are getting on the manager, getting on the players a little bit. Who do you think this game is more important to for those 3 points?
Cool, that's a tough one. Obviously, there's so much surrounding Arne Slot. I think since the dismissal of Xabi Alonso at Real Madrid, that's kind of come to the forefront of everyone's minds even more. So I would feel like there's slightly more pressure on Slot coming into this match than Eddie Howe. Of course, a decent result despite not managing to secure that top 8 spot last night for Howe coming into this match. Also, a little bit more pressure just being at home. Newcastle haven't won a Premier League match at Anfield since 1994. I think even Robin was in nappies during that match. So,
it's a great stat, Marcus. What a stat that is.
Yeah, just to put some context there, from that 11 starting for Liverpool that day, you had the likes of Ian Rush, John Barnes and Neil Ruddock the last time Newcastle won at Anfield. So, yeah, I think the pressure and expectation should mainly be on the host.
Love it, love it. Well, as always, Robin and Marcus have worked together to build the bet builder, the four-leg bet builder. As always, in this podcast, you can go in the description and back this bet, but we'll come to that once we've built the bet. So we're going to go to the first selection. Robin, we're coming to you. What is the first selection for the bet builder for Liverpool versus Newcastle?
So the first selection that myself and Marcus have gone for is Florian Wirtz to have 2 or more shots at 1.29. Now, we know he started the season rather slowly, arrived when he signed. He was a record signing at the time, obviously surpassed by Alexander Isak since then, and struggled initially, but he has been in really nice form lately. He scored in 5 of his last 9 matches across all competitions, so his confidence should be up. We've seen that reflected in the number of shots he's been taking lately. He's had 2+ shots in 9 of his last 10 appearances across all competitions. And when Liverpool played Karabag in midweek, he was taken off after 66 minutes, which signals to me that he is going to get plenty of game time. And there's another interesting facet in this, in that Liverpool's right-back issues may have a knock-on effect here. It could mean that Dominic Szoboszlai either plays right-back, which is an outside possibility, or at least is given a more defensive role in midfield, and in turn you would imagine that would free up Wirtz to have more shooting opportunities in this game.
Do we think he's going to play sort of in the 10 role coming off the wing? What's the sort of position? Obviously, you just said Szoboszlai potentially at right back. If that's the case, are we expecting Wirtz in more of a 10 role, or if Szoboszlai is in midfield, will he maybe play off a wing and pop into the centre of the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, he's just such a lovely player to watch, and he drifts into these positions so beautifully. I would personally play him in a sort of 10 role. Whether that's something that Arne Slot sees fit in this game, I'm not necessarily sure, because obviously you've got Mo Salah back now for Liverpool, and there'll be questions over whether he starts or not. But, Wirtz is a player who's really coming into his own. He's not quite at the level he showed at Bayern Leverkusen last season, where he had 2.99 shots on average per 90 minutes in the Bundesliga. But there's been clear signs of progress in his performances, and I think he's somebody that's worth singling out in this game. And actually, both myself and Marcus looked at potentially backing him in terms of one shot on target or more at 1.62, because he's had at least one shot on target in 8 of his last 10 games. So there's also potentially value there if you fancy going for a bit of a longer shot.
£100 million is a lot for a footballer. Well, maybe it's not in the modern game, but I think he's still got a lot to prove. But you're right, I think he has turned a little bit the corner, and fingers crossed he turns the corner for us in this game and has those 2+ shots. Marcus, we'll go to you for the second selection, mate. What have we got for this one?
So our second pick is the Newcastle goalkeeper to make 3 or more saves at 1.44. This is one of the newer markets around. I think it came in maybe last season or the season before. When I'm looking at goalkeeper saves and a team in particular, I like to look at their opponents and their shots on target data just to make sure that I'm expecting shots to be raining down on their goal to give the goalkeeper that I'm backing the opportunity to pull off those saves. Liverpool at home this season have had 5.18 shots on target per game. Obviously, we only need 3 for this line. And Nick Pope, in particular, is one of the main shot stoppers in the Premier League to sort of encourage me to look at this kind of market. His save percentage is at 73.6, which is third overall. He's averaging over 3 saves per game. But if you look at just games against the current Premier League top 6 alone, that average goes up to 3.6. And in his 5 games against top 6 opponents this season, sides in the current top 6 in the Premier League table, this bet has landed in 4 of 5.
Okay, love it. Liverpool have only forced 3+ saves from the opposing goalkeeper in one of their last 4 Premier League games. What do you think in this game is going to allow for that many shots to potentially be at Nick Pope or even Aaron Ramsdale if Eddie Howe wants to throw him in the mix as well?
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot going for Liverpool ahead of this fixture in general. I've sort of seen this bet as part of a wider stance of favouring the Reds to have more shots in the game in general. Just going into this match, I don't feel like the scheduling is on Newcastle's side at all. Maybe hints towards some of Eddie Howe's selection in midweek. They had a day less to recover for the Champions League in midweek. Obviously, they had to travel to Paris, where Liverpool could they were comfy after 20 minutes, 2-0 up at home to Karabag. Liverpool were chasing PSG all over the park, having just 33% of the ball. So I do feel like this is quite different circumstances to maybe some of Liverpool's more recent games. There's a little more in their favour. I know in that sample size they played Arsenal as well, and we know how hard it is to force saves out of David Raya, given how secure they are at the back.
Cool, love it. Okay, Robin, what's the next selection, my man? The third pick for the bet builder.
So our next selection is Dominic Szoboszlai to have 1+ fouls at 1.44. The main thinking behind this is just the fact that Newcastle's central midfield is just an absolute foul-winning machine. Bruno Guimaraes, who didn't play in midweek but made the bench, is the third highest foul winner in the Premier League with 46, which works out at 2.25 per 90 minutes. Sandro Tonali and Joe Linton, who is obviously an injured out for this game, are also right up there. And between the 3 of them, they are winning 4.6 free fouls per 90 minutes, which is a huge stat, really. And I mentioned previously about Szoboszlai potentially playing right back. He could find himself up against Anthony Gordon if Eddie Howe decides to change the formation back and change the personnel around. And Gordon is obviously another prolific foul winner. He wins 1.92 fouls per 90 in the Premier League. Szoboszlai gave up 2 fouls when Liverpool played Newcastle in August, and last season the sides met on 3 occasions, and across those games Szoboszlai committed 6 fouls, at least 1 in each game.
I think he's only committed 2 fouls. He committed 2 fouls against Karabag, but apart from that, he didn't commit any in his previous 6 outings. So I know you've touched there a lot about the Newcastle midfield. Is that the main reason why we think this is going to land so predominantly?
It's not the main reason, but it's certainly a reason. I mean, I think if you look at Liverpool's recent matches and the role that Szoboszlai's played, for example, he played right wing against Marseille and Bournemouth, so he was away from the thick of the action where you'd expect him to be in this game. When he was more central, it was against teams like Barnsley and Burnley, who would be much less competitive than Newcastle. At the start of the season, he committed a foul in 14 of his first 18 Premier League games, and never once in his whole Liverpool career has he gone 5 Premier League starts without committing a foul. He's currently on 4 starts, but I just can't see him going a 5th without giving away a free kick.
Okay, love it. Just before we move on, as always on this podcast, we like to have a little bit of banter. Robin, I've got to pick you up on your pronunciation of Szoboszlai because you're saying Slobberslai. It sounds like he's drooling. Maybe it's a Scottish twang, Robin. That's what it is.
I think I'm going to have to go back and check that out as well, to be honest.
Honestly, comedy gold. Right, let's move on to the final selection, Marcus. What are we going for?
Our last pick is Anthony Gordon to have two plus shots at 1.5. He's averaging over 2 shots per 90 in the league this season, so covering this line, and that shots average for Gordon has actually increased since the turn of the year. He's had 8 appearances in 2026, and yeah, as we saw last night against PSG, was right in the mood as soon as he came on. I'm kind of seeing a little bit of a similarity here with the space in behind he was able to find against PSG. Compared to a potentially dominant opponent like Liverpool, this matchup could be a horse for a course to get him back in the team. He's a good shot threat because he shoots from a range of positions, so we don't necessarily need a certain scenario for this bet to come in. Around a third of his shots this season have come from outside the box. That was how he landed his shot on target against PSG as well. One thing that's important to consider when betting on Anthony Gordon, particularly this year as well, is in his 8 2026 appearances, 6 of those times he's been subbed off. So the Paddy Power super sub feature could be quite important for us here. I like to see it more as a nice insurance policy than necessarily something to rely on when you're placing a bet. But with someone like Gordon, it definitely adds to the appeal of backing him. His 6 substitutes on those occasions have chipped in with 5 shots combined. So it's not like he's coming off and the bet's dead. If we do get to that position, obviously, I hope he has 2 shots in the first half an hour, but we'll see. It's also reassuring to know that the 6 substitutes that have replaced him have been Anthony Elanga 3 times, then Nick Voltemada, Jacob Murphy and Harvey Barnes once each. So we're always getting an attacking replacement there.
Okay, love it. He's Anthony Gordon's a bit of a weird one this season, isn't he? He was doing really well in the Champions League, and we touched on it in the previous episode of the podcast. He's sort of getting a lot of stick, and he's not really finding his form. Obviously, with him being an ex-Everton player, Scouse born and bred, do you think he's going to possibly want to prove even more of a point in this game against Liverpool and silence a few haters or doubters and find a bit of form for himself?
Absolutely. There's so much to play for Gordon in this match. Something that was coming into my head when I was doing my research was the England squad. The left wing seems to be a bit of a vacant spot on Thomas Tuchel's team sheet. Seems to have lent towards Anthony Gordon at times, but he's definitely not nailed down that spot, and his numbers this season suggest that it could be in a little bit of jeopardy. Also, as Robin touched on earlier in the show, there's no Joe Gomez, there's no Conor Bradley, there's likely no Jeremy Frimpong as well. So, yeah, it should be a huge opportunity for Gordon to play a big part.
Awesome. Well, maybe he might turn a corner starting from tomorrow and nail that position for the left wing for the England squad. So just to recap, fellas, our 4-leg bet builder looks like this. We've got Florian Wirtz, 2+ shots at 1.29. Newcastle goalkeeper to make 3+ saves at 1.44. Dominic Szoboszlai, 1+ foul at 1.44. And Anthony Gordon, 2+ shots at 1.50. Combined odds of 4.07, which is basically 3-1. As always in the podcast, I touched on it at the start, you guys can back this bet by clicking the show notes or the description. Make sure that you're over 18, of course, and please gamble responsibly. We'll also be backing this on Paddy Power, as Marcus just alluded to there, so the Super Sub feature is intact. If you don't want to follow this bet, as always, you can head over to andysbetclub.co.uk, where there are tons of stats for you to build a bet builder alongside. Now, 2 teams that, like I say, have been hit and miss this season, but one thing's for sure, whenever a game like this comes with 2 absolutely colossal teams in England, we are expecting an entertaining game and hoping for that for sure. Another episode will be out tomorrow morning ahead of the Spurs Manchester City game, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on that one. But fellas, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure as always. Robin, make sure you learn how to pronounce Dominic Soberslife over again in the future. And we will see you all in the next episode.